Firstly, there are the genetic engineering limits, or lack thereof, and I don't mean like bringing extinct species back to life, although there will likely be an issue as well. Instead, what I'm actually talking about here are the limits that presumably parents would have in terms of modifying their children. Removing what most people consider defects will probably be the default centrist or even conservative position in pretty much every society. Beyond that is where things will likely get more controversial. So, you have questions such as, can you make them better looking? Again, from a genetic perspective, more hardworking or adding similar positively associated traits. And yet another thing would be like, can you give them colorful hair, nails, skin, any other like body modifications? Can you give them tails? Or maybe like, I don't know, ears, animal parts? Can you make them more disagreeable, agreeable, like homosexual, straight, change their personality in general? Can you only add neutral positive traits? But then who gets to decide which ones are positive though, or negative? And can you make your child, for instance, a psychopath? Because if not, then maybe a sociopath. I mean, caring about only himself or that plus his family might be advantageous. So what is the actual definition of positive, negative, if not? So at the start there will be little limits, as the technology will be new and law tends to lag behind. No wonder. But as some of these situations happen, many people will be disgusted, disturbed, or feel that it's just wrong, which will cause them to push for restrictions, and in my opinion, causing the midterm restrictions to be the highest. So the tech will be new, and not normalized, while the law will be catching up. While long term, they will likely loosen up somewhat, becoming a delicate balance between multiple competing societal interests. Now of course, this is just an impartial prediction, not a judgment of what's right and wrong, and in general, like, assume that I have no opinion on any of this unless stated otherwise. Unfortunately, I don't have the time, and you do not have the attention lifespan for me to get into these topics as deeply as they actually deserve. Secondly, we have 2-in-1, animal rights versus distrust of laboratorial meat, and they are combined into a single issue of animal farm legality. Now obviously this is already an issue, but it's not large enough to be called political to go over like few other things in this video. Once artificial meat becomes cheaper, more tasty and more widely available, perhaps becoming technically indistinguishable from like normal one, replacing for like a lot of people the need for farms, they can start questioning their morality and also obviously their legality without having any personal stakes or losing anything. But as it generally is, when a lot of people will be distrustful of the new technology and institutions like companies propagating it, especially at the beginning. And with all alternatives, they will continue supporting the farm industry, but like the anti-farm side will view this practice as immoral and won't want to allow it, which is kind of ironic since this is only the case because they no longer need it. And furthermore, those sides will likely be funded by their respective industries. Now, you might also ask like, why do you sound so cynical? And what is your evidence for like the predictions in this video in general? Well, there's actually a lot. In fact, too much for me to get into all of it. Like these videos already take too long to make. Now, for this topic as an example, like we know that it's because of circumstances as without them, well, like what would happen without them, like right now. But just for some more, empathy, or more accurately sympathy, is conditional and for many performative. Once the circumstances get better, in this case no longer needing that specific thing, and they no longer lose anything, in fact having societal points to gain from seeming empathetic, they will begin to care. Also, you can read like ChatGPT summary if you don't want to like read through these studies. And on top of all of that, we have the rationalization studies, which, yeah, that's another topic I'm not going to get into like too much here. So sadly, I really don't have time to properly tie all of that, but let's just say that once you realize most people are not like particularly principled, conscious agents that evolutionarily benefit the most from being sympathetic if they don't have much to lose, the above conclusions might not seem that far-fetched anymore. This might seem like I'm being overly biased against farm legality, but pay attention to what I actually stated. Not a single argument for or against. The third topic is Android and AI rights and limits, also arguably like separate topics, and like this might seem silly, but as they become more and more indistinguishable from humans, in fact, especially like when they start replacing nannies and caretakers, some parents will also likely leave most of their upbringing to them as well. Now, try explain logically to a person brought by an AI nanny that she doesn't have a consciousness and somebody destroying her is just destruction of private property, like not killing. See how well it'll go. And it's also why it's important to discuss these issues right now, as in the future they will be just too emotional for many people to have rational conversations with. Some of the questions in this topic will include like, can you program them to do anything? Can you make them look like anything? Is this robot slavery? Is killing, raping, abusing an AI NPC that behaves no different from a real human wrong? Should it be illegal? Would it cause any issues? Perhaps, I mean, there would definitely be people that would argue it's just too similar to reality or that it would cause these things to happen more in real life. This, based on my knowledge, is not really a good argument though. After all, you can very much claim reverse, that people who do not get to vent through such means would attempt them more in real life. And both are just things that need to be tested empirically, and unless there's substantive evidence against it, I would argue on the side of freedom, though I guess that's framing kind of. In terms of who's going to win, well, I'm actually quite unsure. Like in the first topic, I think it'll be a middle compromise. In the second, I forgot to mention, I think that the anti-farm side will eventually win, as artificial meat will probably only gain in popularity and therefore supporters. Well, here, it will heavily depend on the country, although it kind of goes for like all topics here. And the thing that I actually can predict is that without substantive philosophical changes, you will not be able to make androids look like anything, at least not the ones that can be used for bedtime purposes. We already see that in video games or visual art, that even something resembling a child is a non-possibility from a legal perspective. So yeah, that side will definitely win in this topic. Now, the issue number 4 might already be quite relatable to some people. How to structure society where AI can perform almost all jobs, like how do average people get money or resources? Like, do companies have to like hire robots owned by them? Do they get like classic government subsidies and free money package? Initially, I predict, AI will cause greater centralization of power into the hands of the financial elites, but later, through great protests, movements, and political pressure, this might instead centralize power into the government instead. And if finance aides in some countries will be smart enough, they will actually themselves push for subsidies, just smaller ones, guaranteeing a minimum standard of living, as that will weaken the protests and allow them to keep more power. Now, subsidies will probably be the default solution, as most people are not particularly creative, especially politicians. Like, just recall how long the school system remained fundamentally unchanged. Oh wait, it never changed. Later on, you would likely see a lot of experimentation, as some of the brilliant minds, now with endless free time, will get to solving these problems. And speaking of free time, there are two broad possibilities here. One that creates what will essentially be an utopia, giving all citizens free time, most unlimited resources and servants, a society essentially that struggles only with meaning and purpose. Or the worst, most unequal oppressed society that ever existed, one that allows the few to have through like loyal robot armies and supreme monitoring system, never before seen grip on the population, like assuming even decides to keep a population. I mean, they might no longer need citizens. It's unknown whether it would even be run by humans at that point. I think it's pretty likely both will happen, it's just a matter of how often and where. Now, originally the video was supposed to be longer with many more points, but I think it went on long enough, so I'll just end it here.